is Angela, and I want to just start off by sharing with you a little bit about Workers Group and a little bit about our organizing work, and hopefully that will help set the tone or frame for why we're even having this forum, and then talk to you a little bit about this forum tonight, what will transpire, and what each of the speakers will be focused in on. And then share with you some ways that you may very well decide to be thinking about your own engagement, and how you have an opportunity to even stay connected with us and stay connected with this work. And so you are in the People's Assembly Office. We are very grateful because the New Orleans Workers Group does a lot of organizing in the city of New Orleans. And we are really serious about revolutionary work. We are not interested in reform activity. We understand that reform activity does happen, and sometimes reform activity can be an entry point into the work that happens in terms of revolution, but we're not blinded to believe that reform is the end-all be-all, because in order for us to exist in a world where people can really, truly be liberated completely and entirely, it's going to require revolution as it relates to the system that we're living in. We are very, very clear that as we look at the world around us, and again, not only talking about locally, what's happening within our country, but talking about globally, that capitalism is a problem. And to recognize the way in which capitalism has manifested itself around the globe, we have imperialism to thank for that. And we have to really ask ourselves, when we think about the ways in which people are suffering today, not only here, but globally, what's the root cause of that? And where did that come from? And did that always exist in world history? And the answer to that is no. Capitalism has only existed for a very short period of time in world history. But because we have only experienced it in our lifetime, and our parents have only experienced it in their lifetime, and their parents have only experienced it, you grow to believe that this is it, this is all life can be. But I always say that I am so grateful personally because I know that, I have ancestors who only knew chattel enslavement. Were working on a sugar plantation, and their parents only knew chattel enslavement, and their parents only knew chattel enslavement. But they had an opportunity to see a different system, a world that they had not seen. But that chattel enslavement is anchored in a system that we are still contending with today. So even though we have seen capitalism morph in different ways, it hasn't gone away. And we have to really contend with that. So the Workers Group is here to do that work, and is here to do that work as it relates to where we are located in the world. And we are more than happy and joyful to connect with revolutionaries, both near and far. And some of the ways in which we have an opportunity to connect, share our messages, exist in organizing and getting out there. And so we're really proud to share that the Workers Group has something called the Workers Voice newspaper, and that Workers Voice newspaper comes out on a monthly basis. If you're in the room and you don't have a copy, we're hoping that you will have a June copy before you leave. And the Workers Voice newspaper only costs 25 cents, but it will be the greatest investment that you can make in really getting some quality information that the mass media is not giving us. And then the Workers Voice also has a radio show that comes on every Saturday at 5 p.m. And you're able to listen in to that on WHIV radio station. And so one of the things that the Workers Group does is host a monthly forum. And the monthly forums that are hosted are really to provide us an opportunity not only to read the paper, get information, listen to the radio station, get information, but to come together and really process issues that we have to contend with, and then have an opportunity to come together and talk to those, to make sure that we're really paying attention to what's happening around us and how it's connected to the kind of suffering that we're seeing daily and that we're seeing here locally. And so tonight we're excited because each one of the speakers that is going to come up is going to have an opportunity to really elevate and highlight resistance that has been happening not only in Sudan, but resistance that is happening in Iran, and how that impacts us here, and what the impact of imperialist wars are having in the world, and what's our contribution to that as people who live here, and what is our contribution to that as we think about ourselves as revolutionaries who live in the United States but don't sign off on what the government is doing. What does that mean for us, and how do we navigate that space and time? And so tonight we're really excited because we want to contend with not only what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in Iran, and what's happening here in the United States. We want to be thinking about the kind of resistance activity that's happening in those spaces and what we can learn from it, but how we can support from where we are. So are y'all ready for that tonight? Y'all ready for that tonight? Okay. So just so that you're aware, in a few minutes, Big E is going to come forward and give us that talk to help us understand what's transpiring in Sudan, what we can learn from that, and how we can support. And then following Big E, we're going to have our very own comrade Joseph come forward and take us through that same understanding as it relates to Iran. And then, what does that mean for the United States, and what does it mean for what's transpiring in terms of the government work happening here? And Antoinette is going to come forward and bring it full circle and bring it locally for us so that we can make that connection. And so as we think about what they're going to be sharing with us, we want to be open to that information, and we're going to have a little time at the end to engage in some Q&A and some discussion so we can process a little deeper. And then the big call to action is based on what it is we engage around tonight. What are we going to do with that information when we leave this room? Because for us to grow and elevate in consciousness and have it on an intellectual level, what does that mean for the struggle? And how do we apply it to the struggle? How do we apply it to the work that's needed to transform the world that we live in? Because we're going to have to ask ourselves this question tonight. Do we believe that it is possible for revolution to take place? Do we believe that it is possible for the world to look different than how it looks right now? Because if we believe it, then we have to line up our actions accordingly and be a part of this historical change. And so I'm going to ask you right now to put your hands together to welcome our comrade, Big E. You need the microphone, you can go hard.
All right. Thank you there, Sister Ann. Appreciate that. But first, let me start this recording over because I want to make sure that we